Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to come and speak with you. And Jim, thanks so much. Thank you for all you do. Really a pleasure to be meeting with people in a real place, in person, and it's been a long 2 years for all of us. But anyway, I don't need to share that with you. We have a lot of things going on at Amtrak. As you know, we have a lot of good news, great opportunities ahead of us, and I just want to take the opportunity to share a few things with you and hopefully have some time to get to your questions as well. As Jim mentioned, I joined Amtrak about 6 months before the pandemic began. So most of my time has been in the experience of crisis management of sorts. Fortunately, I have a lot of experience in that from past lives. Spent most of my career in the travel and air transportation business, but really excited about things going on in Amtrak today. So, starting off, of course, the most significant issue in the history of Amtrak really is the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Jobs Act that was passed at the end of last year. And there's an extraordinary commitment and investment in the future of rail in this country. And of course, that's great news for us at Amtrak, for everyone in this room who's so passionate about the role of rail in the U.S. and the country overall. And I don't want to go into great detail here. I think you are all familiar with the $66 billion dedicated and authorized for issues related to rail investment, including the Northeast Corridor, significant dollars. In the red circle on the right, you see the dedicated national network funding and the $16 billion of national network grant for Amtrak. And that's really what we're focused on in terms of opportunities for growing not only the state-supported service in the corridors that we have discussed in great detail through our Amtrak Connect Us plan and such, but also for investments in the long-distance network and continuing with a number of initiatives that are essential for our growth and continuity. So that's a big deal, and that kind of commitment from the federal government to the future of rail and passenger rail in particular it's a great time to be at Amtrak. It's a great time for the country. So. And just a little bit about that and what those dollars can be spent for. All kinds of things, basically. We have a lot of backlog. The most significant, I think, that's for us on the long distance service line is really the fleet and the opportunity that we have through this commitment of resource to really make a long-term plan, a decision about the next generation of fleet that will operate the long-distance network. You all know that so much of our equipment is getting quite old, and there are all the challenges of maintaining and keeping operational old equipment. There's the inefficiencies. We have a wide assortment of equipment types, and so we are really leaning in at the company, not just the long distance service line, but our colleagues throughout the organization are benefiting from the lessons that we continue to learn through other fleet projects. The ICT procurement in particular, most recent acquisition or decision around that is really helping to guide us as we move into this next phase and aligning the organization around doing this upcoming procurement as well as we can. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But that equipment is a really important part of this. Certainly investments in stations and our commitment to continuing to get all of our stations up to ADA compliance and with a timeline to achieve that over the next several years on a complete network-wide basis. And there's all kinds of other capital backlog working with partners, host railroads and such, that can improve our network. And also, even this funding can be used for other assets that the company needs to run the business effectively. And that's where Jim, for a brief moment, thought, well, maybe Larry will help improve the reservation system. But we made no such luck. No such luck. But anyway, there's those kinds of things, and the other kinds of capital investments that can improve our effectiveness and our efficiency, our fair game. And so this is an extraordinary and historic opportunity, and we're thrilled to be at this moment. I won't go in great detail about this. You guys probably know the reauthorization and the terms of the IIJA better than I do. But there's a number of things that are codified that are important about the continuity of long distance, the service on Amtrak into the future, and making sure that any reductions that we've taken over the course of the pandemic are temporary in nature. A funded study, as I think you all know and maybe had some discussion about earlier with regard to the FRA's commitment to a comprehensive study of long-distance network opportunities, not only evaluating things like the impact of potential daily service on our two long-distance routes that are operated only 3 days a week currently, but also other services that either have been operated in the past or have been evaluated in the past, or even potential new ideas or opportunities. And so we are eager to collaborate with the FRA in that effort and support their initiative with regard to that, and we are working well with them already about approach and methodology. But they're, of course, really in the lead on that effort, and we will support them in all ways that we can. And finally, some changes to the food service language that was present in the prior reauthorization that was based on some financial metrics. And this, in lieu of that, is an effort to that we are leading at Amtrak to consider recommendations and to consider feedback from a number of folks, including, I'm sure, people in this team, and submit plans. We have been making, as I think you know, lots of investment and improvements to our food and beverage service, and we're proud of a lot of things that we've accomplished, but know that there's still opportunities ahead for us. And of course, in the little sticky on the right, these are some things that you guys know about, that we always appreciate your help in advocating for things like enforcement of our right of preference and access, and of course the funding not only at the federal level but at working with states and other localities in terms of supporting initiatives around network growth, especially in the context of the corridor plans. So we thank you for all that you do to keep that on the forefront of our elected officials. Just want to talk a little bit about the things we've been doing, focusing on improving the customer experience, even through the pandemic. We have continued to invest We continue to focus on things that we think are important for improving customer experience, especially for in our dining cars and our sleeping cars for first-class customers. Hopefully you've had a chance to experience some of these improvements. Of course, last summer when we were able to reinstate the service across the system that had been reduced as a function of the pandemic, or when we went to 3 a week 2 falls ago on most of the routes, and last summer, just about this time last year, we announced that we would be restoring all those services. And that was also, coinciding with that was our opportunity to relaunch and execute on some reimagined product delivery on our traditional dining services on our Western trains. And that's been really well received, and we're super proud of how that has been executed, and hope that you have had a chance to enjoy that. If not, get out there and experience that. The refreshed interiors on the superliners and the Dreamliner ones, sleepers as well. That project is well underway, and we're thrilled about that as well. Again, matching a little bit different style, but basically the same kind of materials and quality of cabin improvements to seating, cushions, carpets, curtains, heavy cleaning, etc. That is underway, but you might not believe that it's 40 years old. And they're comfortable and they look great. So that will continue across all of the car types. It's going to take us a little while, but over the next year and a half to 2 years, we should be able to get through all of those 400 plus cars that are slated for that refresh. Mentioned about improving food and beverage in addition to the sort of the marquee project of the traditional dining investment and relaunch. We've been working on improving other elements of the cafe service, getting new items and more variety and healthier items, and there's more work to be done there, but continued focus on that, as well as on the flexible dining and continuing to improve the meal quality and the service delivery there. And we're not done, so more to come. You may be familiar with our Bid Up program, which is a day of departure or a few days before departure, an opportunity for customers to be notified of opportunities to upgrade and to essentially enter an auction process. And that we launched that just, I don't remember, sometime last year, May, almost a year ago. And it's been really successful. And not only is it for coach customers who might be interested in business class or even on the Acela from business class to first class, but we're also using it to offer upgrades to sleeping cars as well. And it's been really well received, and we're delighted to offer it. And it's just another way to offer customers an opportunity that they might not have considered, or they might not have known about, or maybe at a great value. A nice innovation that is, I think, a win-win, really good for customers and good for us to drive incremental revenue and incremental interest in our higher value products. Today might be the last day of our USA Rail Pass sale, which, go get it, go! As you know, last year we relaunched and really redesigned the Rail Pass program and simplified it, and most importantly made it much more easily self-serviced by customers. And if you've ever used that product in the past, it was pretty clunky. It's a great offer, but it had lots of bells and whistles, and you had to involve paper tickets, and someone had to write the tickets at a station and modify it. And now all of that's been incorporated into our website and into our app, so that when you purchase the pass, which is available for $3.99 right now. The normal price, the standard price is $4.99. When we relaunched it last spring, we had a bell ringer of a price at $2.99. That was wildly popular and was a great way to get a lot of people familiar with the new capabilities and the new ease of use of the RedPass product. And so we were excited to just take the opportunity this spring to give it one more shot in the arm and hopefully get some interest out there. While especially coach travel continues to, on our network, need some stimulation, and so we think it's a good time for that. And today's the last day, so. We're excited about that. We've got new kiosks at stations around the country, improved technology and more functionality, so that's going underway. You'd be happy to know, I think, that we are hoping to close the gap in our system that we've had for a long time, which is that our Western trains have not been equipped with Wi-Fi for a number of reasons in the past. But we think there's an opportunity to make that happen, and we're actually in some evaluation of that right now, with the hope that we can tee up that as a project across the balance of the superliner fleet. Right now, the only superliners that are equipped with Wi-Fi are on the auto train, but the rest of the network hasn't had that, and it's the only spot left in the network where we need to complete onboard Wi-Fi. So excited about that, and hopefully some good news about that coming soon. And of course, the pandemic, as much as we'd like to put it fully in the rearview mirror, it's really not quite there yet. But knock on wood. Thank you. We will really move beyond this. We've had, as you all know, some fits and starts where we got excited that things were getting better, and then they really weren't quite better yet, and then they were crazy bad, and it's the Omicron surge was more than we could have possibly anticipated in terms of the impact on our business. But nonetheless, from a safety standpoint, we continue to follow the guidance from the federal government, wearing masks in our stations and on our trains, with a date still TBD of whether that requirement will be lifted. We're still not offering communal dining on in our dining cars, which is to say people who are not traveling together sitting at common tables, but hopefully that will be able to lift as well. So, how are we doing on time, Jim?
We're fine.
All right,
go on through.
Yep. I'll talk a little bit about stations. I mentioned earlier with the funding from the IIJA, we will continue to fulfill our project on ADA compliance, up to $75 million, more than at least $75 million annually over the next 6 years to get that fully accomplished. And of course, our iconic, some of our most significant stations across the network have big projects underway. Chicago, of course, has had a lot of major work done already. Philadelphia's 35th Street station is just now getting underway with some major revisions. Of course, hopefully you've had a chance to see the Moynihan Train Hall at New York Penn. There's still major additional work to do there. It's really exciting, I think, the work going on at Penn Station in Baltimore, and what that is going to mean for that city or for that region of the city around the station. That investment will I think trigger. And of course, just up the road here at Washington Union Station, just in the station earlier, Nick and I rode down on the Palmetto just a little bit before this meeting, right on time. But there's a lot of construction or deconstruction, I think, going on already at Washington Union Station in preparation for all of the work ahead there. But this is, you know, these are exciting times for reinvestment in all those amazing facilities and making them suitable for the future of rail travel. And most important, I think, as I mentioned, our fleet. You know, there are a lot of things going on related to fleet, and the long-distance fleet replacement is really the last piece in that puzzle. You all know about the intercity train set investment, the decision to work with Siemens on that product that will serve the Northeast corridor for the Northeast regional trains, as well as a number of our state-supported services around the country, and in fact, the Palmetto, which we were just on. We've started to take delivery of these big, impressive ALC 42 locomotives. We have 75 of them as part of this order. They are going through their paces and getting out the first one where has been on the system now for several weeks. And I think, as is typically the case with new equipment, working through growing pains and working through the operational issues of getting those fully ready for service. But they are coming in fast order and will be a really important change in terms of our reliability, in terms of our environmental sustainability, a huge reduction in not only greenhouse gases, but other kinds of particulates and forms of pollution that I'm not the expert on, but I know that these are quite clean and replacing locomotives that are ready in the time has come. So we're excited about that. The new Acela fleet, the timeline has had some challenges, unfortunately, but the day of their arrival into the network and incorporation into our service is coming. And we're certainly excited about that, and not only the features and the benefits of the new equipment, but also additional equipment sets to allow us to continue to grow and expand the popular and essential Acela service. We'll have eventually 28 train sets, and today's fleet is 20 train sets, and even at the current moment we're operating only a portion of those for a number of reasons, but hoping to get more of the older trains operating still in the interim until the new Acela starts to show up. And the venture cars that the number of our state partners have acquired, notably the Midwest states and eventually in California, are starting to enter service. And they've had their issues as well. A number of challenges in getting those into service. Some of them have been in service and have had to be taken out of service temporarily. But the issues are being worked through. We're optimistic that they will be operating, and we need them. We need the equipment in the Midwest. We've been patching in and making use of some other Amtrak equipment to fill in the gaps temporarily, do their job. And I'll talk a little more about this one at the bottom in the red box. Two things. Well, we already have talked about the equipment refresh. That's that investment in the interiors across the majority of the long-distance fleet. But I really want to talk a little more about the fleet replacement initiative. And it is underway. And it targets the entire long-distance fleet, with the exception of, the newest of our fleet, the U-Liner 2 cars. May not need replacement in this time window, but regardless, all of the Superliner fleet, all of the Amfleet 2 coaches that are used on our single-level trains, and all of our U-Liner 1 sleeping cars. Along with all the other dining and lounge service cars. And so this is a massive effort, and this is, as you know, we have quite an assortment of equipment, and it's a complex undertaking, but it is moving firmly to the front burner at Amtrak, And I just want to share with you that this is not sort of in some distant future. This is very much active undertaking. And it involves all kinds of parts of the organization. And you may have heard that we've got a new, very strong leader in a group that we're now calling our capital delivery organization. Laura Mason, who joined us from Ramada just in the last 6 months or so, is taking responsibility for all of the major projects that involve capital investment at the company. And that can be major infrastructure and station projects, but it includes these fleet initiatives as well. And Laura and her team bring the rigor and discipline to these processes to make sure that all of the parties within the organization and all of the stakeholders outside of the organization who need to be a part of that are on the right timeline and working well together. And as I said, we've had the benefit of learning lessons from some of the procurement efforts that have preceded us. And so we are, this time's going to move quickly because we are hopeful and working toward getting a proposal that can be approved and can be a contract awarded to a supplier by 2024. And so that's not that far away. And so we've been working in the service line with our partners in the commercial organization. Our product development team is really taking the lead on exploring the customer-facing features. What is it that we believe that we need to provide the service that customers will demand in the future, and what do we want to envision the long-distance service that we'll provide to deliver. And we have lots of good ideas about that, and I'm sure you guys have lots of good ideas about that as well. But we have to be very thoughtful and mindful about the front end of this to define what we're looking for, so that we can then go find it and understand what it's going to mean for the next generation of long-distance service. So if there's ever a question about our commitment to long-distance service, a multi-billion-dollar investment in new fleet ought to make clear that this is where we're going. So, last thing I'll mention, and be happy to take some questions next, but that you all know that we are not alone in the U.S. in facing an extraordinary challenge as we emerge from the pandemic, and lots of people in the whole economy turning the lights back on, and getting qualified staff to run our operation and to plan the future of our business is perhaps the biggest challenge right now facing Amtrak and facing lots of companies across America. We are making great progress, and we are hiring hundreds and even thousands of, well, not thousands, but over 1,000 people just in the last 6 months or so across various positions. There's a lot more that we need. The pandemic threw a wrench in a lot of things, of course, most significantly with uncertainty about the future for quite a period of time. We curtailed hiring and we curtailed training, and some of our pipelines of human resource got pinched off, and we're opening them back up, and we've been working at it for many months now, but we are still facing constraint in terms of being able to operate the full network at Amtrak. And we took some pretty significant reductions back in January that were really exacerbated by the Omicron surge, and it was kind of the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, I think. But we were already we were facing challenges, and sort of just the pace of hiring and training and qualifying for a variety of positions across the organization against a wave of attrition, of retirements, or people moving on to other things, or people getting promoted within the organization to other positions, onboard services employees moving into transportation roles, et cetera, that we're just continuing to have places where we need more people, and it may hamper us for several months to come. My moonlighting job at Amtrak, I don't have a moonlighting job outside of Amtrak, but I do have one at Amtrak, which is that I also lead within our commercial organization what we call service planning, which is building the operational schedules with the resources that we have and seeking to accomplish our commercial objectives, serving growing ridership and revenue and growing the network against what our physical capabilities are with equipment, with facilities, and most importantly with people. And so my team that does that work is really in the thick of this challenge of, we can't just say, here's the schedule, just go run it, because we have to acknowledge that we are constrained in certain places, and working with all of the operating teams to identify those limitations, and as they get rectified, restoring service as quickly as we can. And so we are still at a decision point coming up in the next few weeks in the month of April to firm up our plans for the summer schedule period. And we're anticipating restoration of more of our services. We don't know yet if we will be restoring all of the service reductions that are currently in place. And it's terribly frustrating for all of us. And I just want this group to know that we are eager to provide our full service. Our demand is coming back. Our customers are interested. As you know, there's an appetite for travel, especially pent-up interest as a result of being cooped up in the pandemic for all of us. And so our intention is to operate as much of our network as we can. We will always do it safely, we will always do it thoughtfully, and we will seek to provide the appropriate customer service and reliability. But it's a tough balancing act right now, and we will get through it. We may not get through it as quickly as we would all like, but there will be a brighter day. And stay tuned. I mean, we're optimistic about some encouraging things for summer, but honestly, it's the assessment is very much real time in terms of where are we at and what capabilities can we have and what service can we deliver safely and appropriately. So, with that, I'll stop. And Jim, I'll look at the.
I always worry that our group is going to be kind of shy and ask good questions. I'm going to start. President's privilege. I'm going to start.
Okay.
But we were talking about the workforce and everything. And Tom Castratello notes from Massachusetts that Amtrak has recently posted openings for chef positions on the careers website in Miami, Charlotte, food specialist in Charlotte. So can we glean some intelligence from that? Do these postings have anything to do with implementing improved food service on those trains? And a related question from Dave Randall on my board, is there a status update on making dining car service available for coach passengers?
Yeah, let's start with that second part first. Dining car service for coach passengers is something we're interested in. In fact, we are in the midst of a pilot test out on the Coast Starlight in California, where we are offering at a fixed price on a per meal period an opportunity for, at this point, business class customers, because the Coast Starlight is one train where we have a business class cabin. And so we, partly because we're constrained in the dining car still because of lack of communal dining, we were reluctant to open up the floodgates a little too much and risk, creating a situation of too much demand. But we have been experimenting with making a offer where, on an individual meal period basis, a customer can choose to, a business class customer can choose to come into the dining car. And we're offering that on a sort of space available basis. It's going well, and we hope to expand it to offer it to all coach customers on that train, and then probably experiment on at least one other train before broadening that and offering it more comprehensively. But we think that's the right way to do it. We don't want to exclude coach customers from dining car experience, but we also want to get away from a price point per meal period, and you just invited in to have that experience.
So I'm just going to ask a follow-up before I have Carla ask a question. So
Sure.
If you had to sort of rank order communal dining versus sort of the logistics of just, care versus the people, the staffing, if you had to rank order, what's the biggest rock there versus the others, or are they about the same?
Well, specifically with regard to dining?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Jim. I mean, I think the communal dining really is the constraint right now. I mean, we have a few pockets of places where onboard services staff is tight. One of the most frustrating for us recently is that on the auto train, which has been so wildly successful in terms of growing ridership and increasing number of sleeping cars and broadening that service. We were expected, actually right now we should be operating 9 sleeping cars. That's what our plan called for this year. We were only able to operate 8 because our onboard services team is just stretched so thin there. We haven't been able to, fill the pipeline quickly enough. And that'll rectify itself too. But that's one example, and there are, pockets of other examples. But generally, we are not constrained in terms of the service staff. So that's it.
There are always unintended consequences to decisions, and the 5-day-a-week operating pattern, I think, had a number of them. Last week, you had an Empire Builder with 1 coach on it because of a breakdown, and somehow no one could find the second coach. The Capital Limited coming in right now was suddenly with no sleepers on it at all, days in advance. Those things need to be addressed by your organization. That can't happen. That's madness. Having said that, my question is, the single decision, in my opinion, that was the worst that you guys made in the 5-time Boothby decision was the suspension of the Silver Meteor, the strongest long-distance train in the eastern U.S., and the only long-distance train in the Florida route that made connections to the national network. The Star has no connections basically beyond possibly Harrisburg. The Palmetto and the Carolinian make no connections to the national network because they're either too early or too late. The Meteor did it, and the Meteor's gone. Now, can you give us assurances the Meteor will be one of those trains that will be coming back before next fall? With also the whole high winter season, can we see it soon? Or can you reschedule the Silver Star in some fashion to reestablish the Silver Fleet as part of the national network? Because right now it's effectively an isolated corridor.
Thank you for the question.
And the right hand, I apologize.
Well stated, and a good question. And we've had to make all kinds of compromises that are none of which are ideal. And the impact of the reduction of service on the Silver Meteor is a clear example of that. We have, you asked, can we have assurance that that will be coming back? And I will tell you, I don't have confidence on a timeline yet. I can absolutely assure you it will be coming back. What that date will be, if I told you something now, it would be a guess, and I can't do it. But it is, we are intending to restore all of the long distance services. In fact, all of the services across the system, as I said earlier, just as soon as we can. And it's and the intention is clear. The capabilities are less clear, but they're becoming more clear each day. So we're getting there. Thank you.
So we have very limited time. Al, Jim, and I have one over here, and then I think we're going to wrap it up.
Mr. Chestler, thank you very much for addressing us. It's still this morning. My name is Albert Papp Jr. I am a councilman from New Jersey and a former 3-term vice chair of legislative policy and strategy. Within the last 7 months, I have made 3 long-distance trips on Amtrak between New York and Denver in both sleeper, business class where it's available on the lakeshore, and coach. Amtrak is not an airline. Job 1 for Amtrak now has to be, must be, the revision of the reservation service on the computer. Whoever designed this, I certainly hope he or she is no longer with Amtrak, but it's not an airline. You need to have a system. The prior system was a lot more user-friendly. Thank you, Mr. Strebe. The current one is not. It doesn't tell you the name of the train. I want to go between New York Penn Station and Denver. It gives me times, but it doesn't tell me transfer points to which train, etc. This was brought home very strongly to me yesterday. Train 50, the Cardinal, operating with only 1 sleeper and 2 coaches, totally sold out. The coach attendant had to go back and forth to try and keep people seated. There was so much demand. The Cardinal needs to be daily. The Cardinal needs to be Superliner and run only between Chicago and Washington with a sightseer lounge for the magnificent scenery it encounters in West Virginia. Get with the program. But job 1 needs to be, must be, a revision of the reservation system. If an individual prospective passenger cannot understand it, it does not take them where they want to go. They will either not go on Amtrak or will seek other methods of transportation. Job number 1 for you and your group, please go ahead and get that reservation system reaccomplished. Thank you.
I would say I am receptive to hearing more of your specifics of what those issues are exactly. We've, and maybe they've been articulated in other places, but please help bring it to my attention. As Jim said, I don't have direct responsibility for that, but I obviously have a vested interest in it, and work, my team as part of the commercial team owns that, and we want to understand what our customers, our concerns are. And I just want to come back to one other thing that the gentleman next to you mentioned. About that you mentioned that the Capital Limited didn't have a sleeping car. That was there wasn't an occurrence of something where a customer or a few customers got inconvenienced, but it was not because we lost a sleeping car. That was not. I actually looked into that particular event because I was concerned about that. And we have had issues with car availability undoubtedly, but we have not had a circumstance where we didn't operate sleeping cars on that.
What made this so infuriating was the gentleman was notified days in advance of departure that his car would not be available. And the customer service people told him the car is no longer on the train. Yesterday, he got reaccommodated. So the problem was fixed. But what he was told yesterday was the car had been reserved for crew training. The car was actually going to be on the train, but only training crews. I acknowledge absolutely you need crews, but surely someone could have found a sleeper in Chicago and a single attendant, and they did.
I think it was it was unfortunate. I'm glad we got it rectified, and that it was a misunderstanding and not fully accurate characterization of what happened. So I'm sorry about that.
I can only report what he told me.
No, I hear
So everyone, we have to go fairly quickly because we do need to make sure that we get Chairman Overton on time. I'm going to go to Jim, my vice chair. I really have to. Can we at least say that we'll ship you some questions afterwards? And okay, super. We'll do that. Jim.
I'll be quick. Just for your information, came east from Los Angeles, and there was communal dining in the dining car. I walked in, they sat me down at a table of 3 other people. This is going to sound.
I hope that was at with your permission.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. In fact, that's
We are here.
That's parts of the experience. This has to do with the new equipment coming, hopefully. It may sound trivial, but a window for the upper berth in the superliners is very important. Because I can't tell you how many people respond by blog asking about that and then deciding not to travel that way. But it's very important. The viewliners have it, and it's a great asset. I prefer to sleep up on the viewliner. Will not sleep up, nor will my wife, I would say, sorry to say, on the superliner.
And I apologize, there's like 20 people who want to ask a question and they're not going to get to, but we'll pass them on. George.
Thank you, Jim. George Gilson, San Diego, California. A short-term and a long-term question. The short-term question is, you mentioned, and we've seen, trains that are extensively delayed, 7, 12, and I think in one case, 22 hours late. What is the service recovery that you mount when this happens to passengers? That's the short-term question. Second-term question, have you addressed the issue of whether you're going to refleet the interstate services with single level, bi-level, or both? Thank you.
I'll take the second question first. We have not made a decision about equipment yet, so we're on the front end of this process. That will be a key issue in terms of the mix of equipment and what options we have and what we think is the right solution. To your question about service recovery, our intentions in situations of long delay and service disruption is to handle all customers efficiently, appropriately. We sometimes fail at that, and it's not been our. It's an area that needs more attention, and it's getting more attention in terms of not only communications but also care. I think our staff on board trains do a great job, and sort of the heat of the battle, we can count on them to do the right things. But in situations where there's lack of clear information or there's uncertainty about the outcome for whatever reason, the flow of information needs to improve, and it is something that's high on our radar. Thanks for noticing.
And so
we had to notice.
So everyone, listen, I know there's a bunch of other questions. Please get with the staff. We will get the questions, and then we will pass them on to Larry and his team. But we really do have to wrap it up. Larry, thank you so much for coming in.